comprehensive list of Meghan Markle's bullying allegations. This one's for the Sussex Survivors Club.
Let's call this a modern fairy tale.
What could possibly go wrong?
They have proven themselves to be liars.
Why are they talking about race?
How you don't have your daddy at your wedding?
I want to be near them. I want to be a part of their life.
What you're doing to your father's not right.
She wanted her privacy invaded.
There were women who worked for her who were absolutely broken by her.
Just by existing, we were upsetting the dynamic of the hierarchy.
He has become a traitor.
Who are their friends now?
The fairy tale has fractured.
They would change the world.
Meghan Markle is making headlines again for the wrong reasons. Another aide has announced that she is set to quit amidst rumors that the Duchess is difficult to work for.
There was this moment where our private secretary, she worked for the Queen for almost, 20 years. And what she said to me was,
the secretary she references is Samantha Cohen, handpicked by the Queen to serve Harry and Meghan. Known in the palace as Samantha the Panther, she was considered by her colleagues to be a problem solver who had a plan B, C, and D for every possible problem that might arise in a given situation, many of which she had faced, having worked for the Queen for almost 20 years.
Harry knew her well. When she started, Harry knew her well and liked her, and she liked Harry.
Samantha was the staffer Meghan threw tea on in Australia. Samantha was the staffer Meghan said, listen, if there was anybody else I could get to do this, I would. Samantha had a friendly relationship with Harry and was personally approved by him, but once Meghan entered the picture, he allowed Meghan to shout at Samantha and sometimes even joined in. And Samantha ended up fielding rude emails from the pair at 5 a.m. in the morning most days.
Those early morning messages were described as demanding and ruthlessly direct. Staff allegedly felt pressure to respond immediately, fearing a backlash or coldness if they didn't. Okay, if it's 2 in the afternoon on a Wednesday, fair enough. But 5 a.m. on Sunday morning?
I think she was asked to do things which a private secretary wouldn't normally be asked to do. She was said to have said that dealing with them was like dealing with a couple of teenagers.
Yeah. Everyone knew that the institution would be judged by Meghan's happiness. The mistake they made was thinking that she wanted to be happy.
Especially when combined with claims of belittling, public humiliation, and constant staff turnover. Don't forget, many of the people that used to work for Harry and Meghan have called themselves the Sussex Survivors Club. Why would they use that term?
We all have greatness within us. Mental fitness helps us unlock it. It's an ongoing practice, one where you approach your mind as something to flex, not fix.
Contempt had been growing increasingly concerned about how staff were being treated by Meghan. The issue had been brought into focus by the departure of Meghan's PA, Melissa Tobati, just 6 months after joining the palace. Tobati, who had been the second PA to leave after Meghan's arrival, was a 39-year-old French woman who had previously worked for Robbie Williams and his wife Ada. Since then, the palace sources have said the clashes between Meghan and Tobati would have centered on the free gifts that some companies would send to Meghan.
They can't even accept free gifts. Like if you're Chanel, you can't send anything to Kate Middleton. She has to send it back. I know that. Meghan would have known that.
Meghan got her staff to contact the big powerhouses, Dior, Givenchy, Chanel, to bequeath her handbags and shoes and gifts, and it would be seen as goodwill. Can you imagine being those poor members of staff that know the rules, but are so terrified of Meghan that you're actually doing the most embarrassing thing and contacting them saying, we want freebies?
Despite what certain people were saying about her, I never heard her speak a bad word about anybody. I watched her redouble her efforts to reach out, to spread kindness. She brought biscuits, hosted tea parties and ice cream socials. She shared all the freebies she received, clothes and perfumes and makeup, with all the women in the office.
But former palace aides have said the gifts were part of a pattern of manipulation and control, essentially rewarding staff who were in with her and freezing out those who challenged or displeased her. This fits with the narrative that she's warm and effusive at first, then turns cold when crossed.
That suddenly their sense of self has become so small that they don't see a value in being alive.
It's not often that people with top positions in the royal household give up their posts, so when 3 walk out in quick succession, rumours are inevitable. In May 2019, it was revealed that Meghan Markle's right-hand woman, Amy Pickerel, was leaving, making her the 3rd member of the Duchess's staff to quit within a matter of months.
In fact, when Meghan learned Pickerel had handed in her notice, she was so angry that she refused to let Pickerel travel with her in the car to an official engagement that morning.
Or what about Meghan's trip to the Fiji market in 2018, where the Daily Mail's Rebecca English says, "I was there at the time and witnessed Meghan turn and hiss at a member of her entourage, clearly incandescent with rage about something, and demand to leave." Rebecca wrote, "I later saw this same female, highly distressed member of staff sitting in an official car with tears running down her face." Could this encourage other members of the Sussex Survivors Club to speak out? The trickle of information will soon enough become a stream.
Whilst Meghan was a serving royal in 2019, she was so rude to a Windsor undergardener that the head gardener reported the incident to Queen Elizabeth II. The Queen personally intervened.
Queen, for example, has always been wonderful to me.
She'd actually, I think, got in the car and come back to say to Meghan, that's not how we treat staff.
Now, there are several things here. How on earth can you abuse a gardener? How can you ever get cross with a gardener unless they accidentally cut down the wrong tree? I mean, what do you think a royal undergardener makes? You're probably looking at £25,000 to £30,000 a year tops. She marries a prince. She's, it's untold privilege. And yet, she feels that it's appropriate, allegedly, to attack an undergardener.
This is a real telltale story where a florist vowed to never work with Meghan Markle again after she allegedly screamed down the phone at the florist, but they said here that they vowed never to work with her again, despite the prestige of having her as a client. If you're working for her, you're often treated like a tradesman who'll be treated like Xiaxue.
And if you do look back at the history of how Meghan's treated friends, how she's treated family, staff are going to be nothing, are they? If she can treat members of her family that brought her up, that loved her, that gave her every privilege in life with such contempt, you can just imagine how someone like that would actually treat someone that she deemed below her, beneath her.
So do you remember, they went through 3 nannies in 6 weeks. That's not normal. But of course it was the nannies who were doing a terrible job and they weren't properly looking after Archie. Because of course, none of the nannies were up to the standard.
The employment only lasted 10 days as both Meghan and Doria were so awful and nasty and rude to her that she just resigned. She said, "I can't hack working for people like that." And she actually dreaded every day of that short employment.
I mean, there was a litany of this stuff. So
Catherine had to tell her off to stop speaking to her staff like crap. I believe she even shouted at the loyal Cambridge's nanny, Maria.
What if it was your friend or your mom or your daughter? You wouldn't do it.
10 palace staff are reportedly cooperating with a royal investigation into bullying allegations against the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, just days ahead of the couple's bombshell interview with Oprah Winfrey.
Buckingham Palace announced it had launched a full investigation. "We are clearly very concerned about allegations in the Times. Accordingly, our HR team will look into the circumstances."
The palace statement concluded,
The royal household has had a dignity at work policy in place for a number of years and does not and will not tolerate bullying or harassment in the workplace. Buckingham Palace has said it's very concerned about the allegations. It's setting up an inquiry. Former members of staff will be invited to participate.
Buckingham Palace has completed their investigation into the bullying long ago, but refused to release the report, ever. Sources say that the late Queen and current King don't want to stir up any additional animosity. Harry and Meghan claim they were never interviewed during the process, but submitted a 25-page report in their own defense.
Quote, "The allegations are being used by Buckingham Palace to peddle a wholly false narrative based on misleading and harmful misinformation," end quote. That's right. They pointed the finger at the Queen.
You know what? When you lose one staff member, that could be considered a misfortune. 2 looks like carelessness. How many did they lose? Around a dozen, maybe more. All of them aggrieved. Let's not forget that investigation they did. They have buried that and suppressed it to protect them.
It would set a dangerous precedent because the next time there needs to be an inquiry, people would shy away from being a part of it if they felt their contribution became public. They can be attacked. Some of Meghan and Harry's followers are deranged.
Interestingly, it sounds like there was a little bit of control thrown at Robertson with regard to that tweet from somebody within the Sussex's camp that got her to take down what she had said, which was her right to have her voice on social media.
And she knows she's safe because she knows they can't release the email. They can't actually release the bullying report, etc. It's just never going to come out, sadly. Doesn't mean it didn't happen.
The mere fact that an announcement was not made to the effect that it exonerated Meghan meant that it did not exonerate Meghan.
I am not the goody-goody you think I am.
What the palace is saying in so many words is the investigations confirmed that Meghan is a bully. Unfortunately, they also confirmed that Harry is a bully. Harry backed up Meghan. Let's remember that one.
This is serious stuff. And it was apparently sort of shoved under the carpet. And the victims of the alleged bullying were made to sign non-disclosure agreements.
We are not just a number or a statistic, and our lives matter, our sense of self and our sense of purpose matters.
I've always been outspoken, especially about women's rights. I mean, that's the sad irony of the last 4 years. I've advocated for so long for women to use their voice.
All the young women in particular who work for her quit in tears. She so wore them down and was so nasty.
Women especially, well, all people, you want to feel seen and you want to feel heard.
And Meghan's all for the ones saying, I want to hear women's voices.
Women don't need to find a voice. They have a voice. They need to feel empowered to use it. And people need to be encouraged to listen.
Now, Meghan has talked about giving voice to the voiceless before, but what about the voiceless in your own team?
The Little Mermaid came on. Now, who as an adult really watches The Little Mermaid? But it came on, and I was like, well, I'm just here all the time, so may as well watch this. And I went, oh my God. She falls in love with the prince. And because of that, she has to lose her voice.
Oh my God.
But by the end, she gets her voice back.
Gets her voice back. And this is what happened here. You feel like she you just got your voice compared back. herself to the Little Mermaid. See, baby, paiseh.
It's interesting. I've never had to sign anything that restricts me from talking, she reveals. I can talk about my whole experience and make a choice not to.
Yeah, Meghan says that she's finally able to reclaim her own narrative, saying she feels different and clearer. Like she's always had her own voice, but now she's able to actually use it.
I mean, you're going to have a bigger platform, a bigger voice. What do you want to do with it?
Really, I'm not in the business of trying to dilute you. I'm in the business of trying to uplift you.
I want you to know that for me, I am here with you as a mother, as a wife,
as a woman of color, and as your sister.
Well, the women that left the palace, allegedly bullied out, have all signed non-disclosure agreements, apparently, as part of their leaving.
But your voices are those of truth and hope, and your voices can and should be much louder.
Remember how they're always harping on about having their voices stifled, muffled, and silenced?
And then I was silent.
The Harkles' insistence on silence from employees.
Using my voice in a way that I haven't been able to of late.
Well, apparently they've been doing it to other people, issuing NDAs and all this kind of nonsense.
Especially as a supporter of women.
Isn't it the right thing to do for the NDAs to be removed and for the young female PAs that were driven out of the palace to have their say?
When you're part of a collective and you feel as though someone is seeing you, really listening to what you have to say.
They have a right to defend themselves when they are continuously called liars.
At a certain point, you feel empowered when you don't feel alone, right? Any sort of fight or struggle.
This is about protecting the staff, and they should let them have a voice.
I guess goes to show that if you know that there's something wrong and you're using your voice to advocate in the direction of what is right.
They claim that Meghan knows we can't financially protect ourselves by going to court, so she keeps pushing. It's all a game for her, and she's loving it. The source argued the only way to end it once and for all is for us to be allowed to speak, and for the palace to firmly reject their lies.
Your voice is not small, it just needs to be heard.
And then Harry basically confirms some of these accusations in Spare when he talks about employees crying at their desk.
When I read this, part of me asked myself, why is everybody always crying around her? Either she's terrible or these are a bunch of snowflakes, right? Like, are these snowflakes? Are these just weak-kneed people serving the royal family who need to toughen up a little?
It didn't help that everyone was working around the clock. Nerves were shattering, people were sniping. In such a climate, there was no such thing as constructive criticism. All feedback was seen as an affront, an insult.
They're not stuffy old Brits. It's the idea that the wicked old palace, tweedy old courtiers, crushing the spirit of free-thinking Meghan. That's just not true.
More than once, a staff member slumped across their desk and wept. For all this, every bit of it, Willie blamed one person, Meg. He told me so several times, and he got cross when I told him he was out of line.
Well, Harry, were your staff so inept before? Did your staff need constant criticism before Meghan came on the scene? Did the staff need telling off and reprimanding on a regular basis before Meghan became your girlfriend and then your wife?
You say that the staff called Meghan a narcissistic sociopath. I mean, that's quite strong.
It is strong, and they'd also say we were played.
And is it true that a number of the courtiers who work with her call themselves the Sussex Survivors Club?
Absolutely.